Wow, what a night at StubHub Center, man. There was just something about this place. This card, the SuperFly card, top to bottom, best card of the year in what has been a great year for boxing in 2017, and one of the best cards I've seen or been to live in years. Just a great, great card. And the coolest part about it is that all three of the fights were in the same division. So obviously, we're gonna see these guys fight. There's no network conflicts or anything like that. Let's talk about the first fight, all right, between Juan Francisco Estrada and Carlos Cuadras. It was interesting they opened with that fight. I figured they'd open with Inoue, but they started with that fight, and I thought that'd be the best fight of the card. It was. These guys delivered. They didn't let anyone down. Early on in the fight, Carlos Cuadras was doing well. He was scoring points. He was, particularly to the body, he was throwing some flurries and landing some shots and backing Estrada up a little bit. But I noticed something. I noticed he was hopping around a lot, using a lot of his energy, wasting the energy. And when he was going up top at the end of his combinations, Estrada was blocking a lot of them, and then the last shots up top were missing. Estrada was making Cuadras miss. It's just something I noticed early on. Now, I don't know, I was checking my Twitter, but apparently the guys at HBO thought Cuadras was ahead. Maybe he was ahead early, but I thought into the middle rounds, you started to see Estrada, his feet were set. He was set on his feet, and he was planted, and he was making his punches count. He was going up top, and he was snapping Cuadras' head back. Cuadras' mouth was opening up at times, and there was not really anything on his punches by the middle rounds. Still scoring some nice shots here and there. He really had a nice jab tonight, Cuadras did. This was a much better version of Cuadras that we saw back in March on the Golovkin-Jacobs undercard. He looked horrible there, but I think he took his opponent lightly. This was the Cuadras we saw against Chocolatito before at the Forum, right? He looked real, real good, but Estrada was just waiting and patiently setting him up. And his punches counted more. I thought that his punches snapped Cuadras' head back, backed him up, and he dropped him, I think it was the 10th round, with a nice counter shot. I thought he swept the championship rounds. I thought that Estrada won 7 or 8 rounds clearly in this fight. That's the way I saw it. I think you could go 115, 112, 116, 111. That's just the fight I saw. A lot of people felt it was closer than that, though. And when they read the scorecards, Michael Buffer announced 114, 113 3 times for Cuadras. This place went nuts. Everybody was booing. It was a pro-Estrada house. Everyone was screaming, Gallo, Gallo, it's his nickname, the whole fight. It was a pro-Estrada house. This place went nuts. And then Buffer said, okay, look, sorry, I got that wrong. He pulled the Steve Harvey moment. And he correctly said it was 114, 113 for Estrada. I still don't like those scorecards. For me, I thought Estrada just did more in this fight. I thought he deserved to win by 2 or 3 points at least. Either way, he goes on now to fight the winner of the main event. We'll get to that in a second. The co-main, Naoya Inoue. I have trouble with that freaking name. And Antonio Nieves. Good quality scrap for Inoue. And Nieves, you know, he made a good effort. He didn't come to lose. He does some cute things defensively. You know, a lot of people thought that this was going to be 2 or 3 rounds. I thought it'd go 6 or 7 rounds because Nieves does cover up well, particularly to the body. But I thought Inoue did a good job of feinting at times, using his jab to get Nieves to pull his gloves up just high enough where he could go down and get that left hook to the body. And Inoue really digs that left hook to the body well. And he has such length with it because he has long arms. I didn't realize how lanky he is. He has tall, long arms, and he uses them well. Yeah, a lot of guys with long arms don't hook so well. You know, I have trouble with it just hitting the bag sometimes. It's hard when you've got long arms to turn over on it all the way. But Inoue does it very, very well. One thing, I thought he took a little too much time. I thought he was playing with his food a little bit. I thought it was one punch at a time. He needs to throw in combination more. But I'll tell you one thing I saw about Naoya Inoue, let's just call him Monster. That's his nickname, the Monster. One thing I saw right away that he's got to fix, he brings that left hand back really, really low. Even when he jabs, he doesn't bring it back here. It comes like this. It almost comes, it doesn't even come straight down. It comes like this and slowly goes up. It's kind of robotic like that too. He kind of brings it back almost like this. And maybe it's because he didn't quite respect the power of his opponent, Nieves, who is not known as a power puncher. He slaps. But I don't know. We'll have to go back and look at some of his fights on YouTube and stuff and see if that's a habit of his, because a guy like Estrada would absolutely counter that all night. And a guy like Rungvisai, who's a southpaw, man, he's going to counter that all night, and he's going to come over with the right hook, and that's the shot he ended the main event with, which, again, we'll get to in a second. So, Inoue slowly wears down Nieves, drops him a few times to the body. Great body puncher. It wasn't the most overwhelming performance or anything like that, but it was a good, solid, clean performance, and he announces himself here in America. There was a big section of Japanese fans down on the floor. They all had floor seats. So Inoue shows that he has fans that will travel from Japan. He actually is a ticket seller, right? So I think he's going to be back here in the States very, very soon. Nice, exciting style. Now, main event. Okay. Chocolatito, Rungvisai, doing it again. From the jump in this fight, from the very first round, I thought that Rungvisai just looked so much stronger. And there were a couple close little headbutts, nothing big that caused the cut, but their heads kind of touched slightly a couple times in the early rounds, and Chocolatito was complaining to the ref. Gonzalez, you could tell, was thinking about the headbutts, which of course affected him a lot in the first fight. He got several cuts from the headbutts. No cuts here or anything that I could see down there, but it just seemed that Gonzalez was thinking more about that. He was looking to the ref, you know, for the headbutts and all that. Wasn't 100% on his game. There were some great exchanges between both fighters, just like in the first fight. These guys didn't need all that ring. They needed they could have fought in the phone booth, right? They just needed a few feet between them. Good quality action fight, but I noticed that Rungvisai was so much stronger. And he literally, there was a couple times where he just put his glove on Chocolatito's shoulder and just pushed him aside. Got off a combination and just pushed him away and was able to just move him like that. And these are two guys, same weight class, but obviously Chocolatito coming up, you know, from started his career at 105 pounds. Spent bullet. He just looked like a spent bullet tonight. At one point, I can't even remember what round it is right now off the top of my head, but it was a nice counter right hook that dropped Chocolatito. It was a massive punch, and he didn't really see it coming. Chocolatito had missed the punch, and I think he was about to start trying to throw one of his own, and Rungvisai timed it beautifully. Showed some nice boxing tonight. Actually looked improved tonight versus the first fight. I didn't think he could do more than he did in the first fight. I was wrong. I stand corrected. Rungvisai improved vastly. Not vastly, but he improved from what he did in the first fight in March. But anyway, right hook, drops Gonzalez, and right then and there, I told everybody around me that heard me, this fight's over. There's no way Gonzalez is going to make it out of this round. A lot of people disagreed. They thought Gonzalez was going to fight back. He did. He got up, he fought back hard, but he was done at that point. The difference between, remember, Gonzalez got dropped in that first fight, right? The difference between that knockdown and this first one here is he was badly, badly hurt. That knockdown in the first fight, he was more just cold, caught off balance. It wasn't a big deal, but he was badly hurt here. So he got up, he tried to fight back, and Rungvisai just teed off on him, dropped him again with a monster shot. That is a knockout of the year candidate, honestly. It might win knockout of the year when you just look at the stakes involved in this fight, because this was a championship fight and a Hall of Famer fighter in Gonzalez that was involved in it. But Chocolatito was on the canvas for several minutes, and his face looked bad. He looked really, really bad. And we watched him when he walked out of the ring later. He needed help getting down and walking around. He seemed still to be out of it. So hopefully his team is taking him to the hospital now. That's generally the rule here. California State Athletic Commission, they'll take him to the hospital tonight and get him checked out. And look, it was the same thing with Vladimir Klitschko earlier this year against Anthony Joshua. Rarely in this sport does a great, esteemed Hall of Fame career end beautifully. It usually ends ugly. You know, last year, Bernard Hopkins against Joe Smith. This year, Vladimir Klitschko, even though it was an outstanding fight with Joshua, he went out with a bad knockout, you know. And now this right here with Chocolatito, wonderful, wonderful career, but I don't see why he should fight on after this. He can't go back down to 112. The guys at 115 are simply too big for him. He had that really rough fight with Cuadras. He had a really rough fight with Rungvisai earlier this year, and then this devastating knockout punch. He's always had such a great chin. Even though he's been dropped, there were flash knockdowns. He's never been badly hurt like this. that chin is cracked. It ain't coming back. So I would suggest, if I was in his camp, they need to think about retirement. Maybe one homecoming fight down in Nicaragua against a, hand-picked opponent, something like that. He deserves it. He's earned it. But other than that, needs to hang him up, man. He really needs to hang him up. It's done. It's over. People are going to speculate what would have happened if he didn't move to 115, if he stayed at 112 and just tried to set a precedent there and unify titles or something. How differently may his career have ended? We can only speculate. But Chocolatito, that's what's going on with him. I think he's done. But for Rungvisai, again, I admit I was wrong and I underestimated the guy. He's clearly the best fighter in this division. It's a loaded division. I would favor him to knock out Naoya Inoue right now because, like I said, Inoue brings that left hand low. He doesn't punch in combination. It's just ones and twos. And I think that Rungvisai would just be a little too much for him right now. He is clearly the best fighter in this division, and I gotta favor him against Estrada. Estrada's a strong, good technician, has a lot more left in the tank than Chocolatito, but I don't know if he has the strength and power to keep Rungvisai off of him. I gotta think about that fight some more, but when they fight next year, right now at this moment, if somebody asked me, I gotta favor Rungvisai. He's really, really peaking. After the fight, he said that he only had 2 months to train for the first fight. He trained 4 months for this fight, and he looks sharp, man. I can't wait to see these guys fight.